getting ready to do this episode, and I was listening to the All In podcast. If you haven't checked those guys out, it's worth checking out. Four dudes that often have some great insights on stocks and the market and all that stuff. But it kind of got me pumped up to go do this episode because I was going to focus on how I could see some of the principles of the 48 laws of power being used against, Twitter, and how Elon might be pushing them into making some kind of mistake or just simply doing what Elon wants, because I'm not sure that he wants to buy it. And I had to sit back and process it. I was trying to think last week. I did an episode like, is he trying to make a run for president? And I'm like, well, crap, I forgot he wasn't even born in the country, so he can't do that. We start, digesting what's going on. We'll look at a Mark Cuban comment here and then some of the 48 laws of power. But right now I'm thinking that he made an offer that was good enough to be taken somewhat real, but not enough to actually make it happen. And he's going to force them to do this poison pill. He's setting something up that's probably 3 or 4 plays down the line that we just don't know what it is yet. Is there someone else that's going to come in and buy or make an offer? Is he setting the table and someone else is going to eat? Or does he just want to decimate Twitter? Does he want to crush this stock? Does he want to get the CEO ousted? Does he, which I think is the other plan, I think he wants to force them to sell to somebody else, such as, I'm just throwing names out there, Microsoft or Google, if they would even get past the government. Does he want that to happen to show that certain aspects of our government are biased to allow that transaction to actually happen? Why would he want to push them into someone else's arms? They're not going to want to sell to Elon. He's kind of anti their culture, what's going on with censorship. If they're going to sell, they're going to sell to someone that's going to stick with what they believe in, because there's so much power culturally and control over society through Twitter. They're going to sell to another tech company that's probably shares, a similar mindset. But in the process of that, does Elon expose something else? Does he get to decimate Twitter in that sense, and like he makes them sell so they can't continue to operate? Do they become part of Google or Microsoft? Will they actually be under more scrutiny? He's doing something to force their hand. And then you got Mark Cuban over here saying, hey, he's just trolling the SEC. In this, he made the offer price of what, $54.20. So, 420's in there. You know what 420 is, and then I think he talked about taking Tesla private at 420 a share. Don't quote me on that. So he could be trolling the SEC and at the same time going after Twitter in these other ways. He might be doing it all at the same damn time. But when I start thinking about, some deeper game theory going on, Law 3, conceal your intentions. You don't know what his intentions are right now. This is the opening salvo where, again, he's setting the dinner table for something else that we just don't know what it is. So I could see where, he's on stage at 10, he talked about a plan B, but he's like, I'm not going to share plan B just yet. Plan B might just been part of the plan. I don't know if anyone expected Twitter to take an offer, because he worded it very, this is my best offer, take it or leave it. That's not how $40, $50 billion public to private deal gets done. So he's almost setting that deal up for failure right from the get-go. So it's like, all right, so he's definitely concealing his intentions. But, they had to do this first. He had to make an offer to get whatever the next thing is going. So we'll see. Always say less than necessary. He's not saying much, if you noticed. He's making a couple statements. He's done a couple polls. Not saying a whole lot right now. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. How many people have contacted him since he's made that offer that want to get in on the deal? How many other people out there that are billionaires that are tired of what's going on on Twitter? Maybe they're tired of the power Twitter has and the control politically. He has now made other people come to him and get in this conversation of, how do I get in on this? How do we crush this thing? Which makes you wonder, if he is setting the table, who is he setting the table for? Let's see what else we have here. A lot of these don't apply to this particular situation, but we can see what else we have. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Here's some. I have not read through all these in a while, but they're pretty good. Crush your enemy totally. It's one of those things that you watch those movies and you had an opportunity to kill somebody and you didn't kill them, and then once they're better, they come back and they kill you. I just think whatever he does here, Twitter's going to get crushed financially, and then someone else is going to buy them out, or he's going to force someone to buy them so he can't, and they're going to lose whatever it is they have. He's going to decimate their board and their executive team and bring some change to Twitter, whether they like it or not. Let's see. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. What do you think's going on at Twitter right now? Like, when that bid came out, those people were probably losing their mind. It's the last guy you'd want to see walking in the door over there. And I think that's what happens is when you do that, you start forcing your opponent to make mistakes. And I think that's another part of what he's trying to do right now. On the All In podcast, they were talking about he's forcing them to do this poison pill. They're forcing them to make decisions that is probably going to ultimately get them sued because they may have not been making the best decisions for the shareholders. They might have been making the best decisions for the board, but not for the shareholders themselves. And they had a good point. Someone on All In said that you should get away from these appointed board members, and the largest shareholders should be the board. It's interesting how we have things set up in this world. What else do we have? Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. Well, I don't know if he's too worried about offending anybody. So we'll see that one. This is an interesting one here. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Not really an Elon play, but I think how he's going about it and what he's been posting on Twitter and the comments that have been made so far. Again, there's just some deeper game theory going on here. I'm not sure he's, playing a sucker, but he is playing some role. He is putting on some kind of act of like misdirection, which I think, if you look at what he's done with Tesla, they are the kings of misdirection. Use a surrender tactic to transform weakness into power. I think this is, in a way, they're going to reject the bid. He's going to, go sell his stock, which has probably been the plan the whole time. This thing gets crushed back down to, what was it, low 30s before he announced his 9% share or something. This thing gets crushed back down to $9. All the management at Twitter looks dumb at this point because it could have sold for 54. And does another buyer come in at this point? We shall see. Concentrate your forces. Who else is... Do you think Elon's doing this solo right now? There's definitely other actors in play behind the scenes with checkbooks ready. We just don't... They have not been revealed yet. What else we have? Keep your hands clean. I don't know about that one. Let's see what else we have. Playing all the way to the end. Look, man, this dude's like... I'm not always the biggest Elon fan, but he's usually 5 steps ahead. Even when he does something that, like, pisses off the SEC, I'm guessing he just wasn't jumping on Twitter and saying something, stupid. They know that they can go do this and there's going to be like a civil penalty and it's going to be X, but they know this stuff, right? They got the plan all the way to the end. They know all the costs associated with it, and then they got like a decision tree, if you ever seen those, where this happens, a 27% probability of this happening. Like, you got people in a boardroom right now planning this stuff out. Let's see what else we got. This has been Elon all along. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. It's Then you write a book in like 3 days or something, and publish like an EDM track, and there's all this stuff that it made him seem like he's just great at everything. Control the options. Get others to play the cards you deal. This is it right here. Like, this is the one I was looking for. I thought this was earlier on. This is what I think this is all about right now. He set that table. He's forcing them to make plays. He is forcing them down paths that they don't want to go down. But in their mind, all the paths that they're going to play are better than him owning the company. Where will they make mistakes? And is he literally driving them into the arms of the person or company that he wants them to go to? We're about to find out. But he is kind of opposing his will on them, and he's making them react. They're in defense mode right now. This is, Elon's up on top of a building, they're down on the ground, and he's got a sniper rifle. Doesn't mean they can't launch a grenade up there and take him out, but it's, in terms of who's got the better position, you feel like Elon is right now. He doesn't have to buy him, but he can force them to make mistakes or force them down a path they don't want to go. Because any path is better than Elon right now. So we'll see. Right now, he is getting them to play the cards he dealt. We just got to see where that hand goes. Let's see. Be royal in your master in the art of timing. That's another one. Why now? Why now? We know the stock's coming off a highs about a year ago. We were down. Is it just because the stock got down into the 30s? Doesn't seem like there's a lot of hope for Twitter. You got this old tech stuff that seems like it's fading, right? Where Facebook had to go switch up and go metaverse. Twitter, like, what are we talking about Twitter in 5 years? I don't know. It's the early, like, mid 2000 type tech stuff is dying off. It's, TikTok's taking over the world right now. There's all this other stuff going on. It's that web like 1.0, it was cool back then, and now you look back and it's like, man, even Facebook, you had Friendster, you had MySpace, like, Facebook wasn't some like magical thing when you look at it from a coding perspective. We already had similar apps, it just took off better. And you think about, like, what is Twitter? It's not the greatest like piece of software on the planet for 2022. So it's got the critical mass for the moment, but it also seems like it's dying. So was now the best time to jump in and try to make a move? I don't know. We'll see. That's what else we have. Stir up waters to catch fish. Can't tell me he's not stirring up water. This is all over Bloomberg, CNBC. I mean, it's all, everybody's talking about it, right? This might be the biggest business move of history, where you got a American tech oligarch taking his great wealth to take over a platform that holds an immense amount of control over American society. So, yeah, so stirring up the water a little bit. Funny enough, I read some stuff. There's a comment section, and it wasn't all in. Maybe it's somewhere else. Whatever, listening to podcast, and they were talking about how people are mad that Elon is this, American oligarch that is gonna take control of Twitter and then control the United States, and we can't let these billionaires do that. And I'm like, isn't that what Bezos did with the Washington Post? Like, I hate those kind of arguments, because you either acknowledge that both sides do it or you don't. It's okay when they're out there doing it for your side, but you don't, when the other side does it, it's bad. And I think that sums up so many issues with this country. It's both sides do it. Both sides are jockeying for control of everything they can get, when we're naive to think it doesn't happen. I'd rather the billionaires just stay out of our media and all things political. It's that's kind of where things are going, where they just have too much control, and the elites just run the world now, and everyone else is just going to have to sit back and live in it. So it's another topic for another episode, but it's all right. Like I don't like Elon involved in Twitter. I don't like people like Bezos buying major media. It's do we want these people having that much power over us? But I guess at the end of the day, somebody does. Somebody's going to own it. So I don't know. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. That's the thing. I think, particularly with the Twitter CEO right now, I don't think that Elon feels that way. I feel Elon thinks he's the problem, and he's got to figure out a way to get rid of him. Why did Dorsey jump? Probably like I said, the halo jump, high altitude, low open. Dorsey made the greatest, CEO jump of all time, and I just think he got to the point to where he couldn't control that ship anymore. I'm not sure he was liking what was going on with the free speech aspects. He's like, I'm getting out of here before this whole thing implodes. And possible changes to Section 230 that are going to come down the pipeline likely in the next 2 to 4 years. The ramifications it's going to have on everything online. And Dorsey's like, screw it, I'm out. And then here we are. So I think that right now Elon's not thinking that the CEO is a great man's shoes. I think he sees it as someone that's got to get out of here. Otherwise, the platform's going to die. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Back to taking out the CEO. That we're going to see if he forces his hands into another company, it's likely you'll probably see a different CEO or no CEO over at Twitter. We'll see what happens there. But maybe this is Elon's way of driving them in the hands of somebody else so he can take out the upper management at Twitter. Work on the hearts and minds of others. I mean, the free speech people definitely making some friends. The problem is everyone that's been on the kind of like Twitter cancel culture side, he's making enemies there. So I don't know. That's a zero-sum game at that point. Disarm and infuriate with mirror effect. Seduce people by mirroring their emotions and interests. I don't know if that's what's going on. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. He talked about the edit button. Some other things going on. Subscription, blue check mark. I believe the only way to really fix Twitter and most of social media is to verify everybody. And I think once you verify everybody, then a lot of the trolling goes away. A lot of the bullying goes away. When you are tied to a real person, a lot of this stuff just stops. That's why you don't see so much on LinkedIn, minus the fake accounts. It's tied to someone's job and their livelihood and their real name. You don't see as much ugly stuff. You still see political stuff and some ignorance on LinkedIn, but you don't see the real terrible stuff on LinkedIn because it's tied to a real person. You get on Twitter and it's someone's name out there is whatever with a cat avatar, and they're out there like spewing all this hate. And it's like, well, if that was tied to a real person, that might not happen as much. So I think the real way to fix it is to just verify everybody. And I think a lot of this drama stops. But he's not preaching a crazy amount of change. I think he wants to, change some of the platform's aspects on speech and add a, edit button and do some subscriptions and that type of stuff. I don't think he's coming in saying, hey, we're going to launch a completely new platform and totally just change the place. Never appear too perfect. I don't know. 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Again, I think he's got this plan 5 steps out, and he's got decision trees based on where it could go. And they do the poison pill and this, and then Vanguard comes in and buys up 10%. The thing is, does he push his position all the way up to 15% to trigger the event where they're going to have to dilute as much as possible? I don't know if that's what's going to happen. It's like he's trying to get this thing to collapse on top of itself. We'll find out probably next week. If he does get to the point where he pushes the 15%, then there's definitely another significant play and it has probably doesn't have anything to do with him buying it. If he's trying to get them to trigger that point of where they have to offer other shareholders other than him the opportunity to buy discounted shares, he's trying to get them to dilute it all to hell. Um, we'll have to see. I'm really curious to see if he just dumps the stock and tries to collapse it down to 30 again, or if he pushes to get that trigger set. So here's my thought. Is it possible that there's someone else that's another shareholder right now that's in on this, or multiple other shareholders? If Elon pushes his up to 15%, does a trigger where everyone else can buy the cheaper shares? Are there 3 or 4 other major investors who are now going to buy up a bunch of those cheaper shares at a discounted rate and then team up with Elon? Is that even possible? Like I said, there's some other there's gamemanship going on here. What is the game? But if you see him go to 15% and hit that trigger, you know something else is about to pop off. So really pay attention to that. Oh, man, we'll see. Assume formlessness, be flexible, fluid. I think that's the hardest part of doing the deal in this world. In the business world in general, you have to be agile and ready for anything. You got to be ready to switch on a dime. You're dealing with people all day. They're emotional. They're running game. They're trying to trick you. You got to be just agile and fluid at all moments. And the thing is, for a public company, I think Elon knows what they can and can't do. So it's a little more hard. It's harder for them to be fluid at this point. They have to operate in a certain set of rules as a public company. Elon can be a little more flexible out there. Who knows what game he's running behind the scene with other people? But for them, he knows, you know, he knows the 10 different options they have. He probably knows the 5 companies they might be able to merge with. He knows every legal aspect of what they can do, from poison pill to this or that, and diluting the shares. And then he looks at all that and it's like, which corner is he trying to push them into? And when he pushes them into that corner, someone else is going to reveal themselves. And then we're going to figure out what the big play is. So this is my fun of a Saturday morning here. Is just trying to figure out what's going on. And again, or this might have nothing to do with Twitter. Maybe Elon's got something else going on he's trying to create some big misdirection for. But big election year coming up. You just don't know. There's so many moving pieces right now. Interesting enough, the whole poison pill thing, reminds me of something that happened in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I think it was not Carnegie. It was, God, I forgot the other guy. Yeah, it was Vanderbilt. I think he was trying to buy a company, and these other dudes, like, because, it was kind of unregulated Wall Street back in the day. They started literally printing as many shares as possible. And as like Vanderbilt's buying stocks, buying, they're printing. They just kept diluting it, and he spent how much money, and he ended up without the controlling share of the company. I think it was Vanderbilt. Don't quote me on that. But it's like, you still kind of see that over 100 years later, the same thing going on here, where you got these defense mechanisms to try to prevent this quote unquote hostile takeover. This is just the more legal way. But again, just curious to see if we get to the point where he goes to 15% or whatever that number is to trigger that, so everyone else can start buying the cheaper shares. Then we got to see who's out there consuming the shares and see if there's someone's teaming up there. We will find out. But anyways, that's all I got for this episode. What do you think is going to happen? Make a prediction 30, 60 days out. Where are we at? Drop a comment below. Till then, I'll catch you on the next one.